Debo Samuel is out. CMC with an incredible matchup against a not so good Seahawks run defense. Bottom line is play Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole show, right?
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey's a pretty good option tonight. Yeah.
Okay. What is up, guys? Welcome to the show. This is the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. As usual, we're talking Showdown. This is actually a pretty decent matchup here. 49ers are hot. Their defense is incredible. They have a rookie 7th-round draft pick, the last pick in the draft, starting for them now. Going up against a, not so great Seattle defense. There's so many great players on the San Francisco team that maybe they just don't even really need that star quarterback. But there's also a lot of guys on the Seahawks that are priced up that we're going to want to mess with here, even if they're going up against a tough defense, for sure. So welcome to the show, guys, once again. Throw us a like on your way in, a subscribe. Ellie, what is up with you, man? How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Just excited to be on a showdown slate where hopefully we don't get annihilated within the first 30 seconds. I'm looking at Cardinals on Monday night. Let's just hope we can survive some injuries, man. Like, people were actually ending up cashing on Monday night, which is kind of crazy. But there were so many injuries, it was like a circle, just all came back. So
it was brutal, man.
I'm looking forward to this.
That was rough. I will admit that. And that's the hard part about Showdown, man. Showdown NFL wise is one weird hit to the head and one of these guys that are 90% owned gone for the game. This kind of stuff has happened a lot recently, but maybe in the last few weeks we haven't had to deal with any heartbreak like that for a while, but that was brutal. And that just goes to show you, if you want to fade CMC, it's probably not a good idea, but hey, you never know in these Showdown slates. You might be able to win a shitload of money if for some reason that guy goes down with an injury. But I'm not playing based on injuries. Like, there's just no way to even predict that or mess with that. I'm not dealing with that kind of stuff, right? So what do we do to kind of protect ourselves? Are you going to start capping players, at 50-60%, guys that you usually would lock in, or it is what it is?
Yeah, no, I'm not building for that. Kind of like NBA, man. I don't build for blowouts necessarily. It's just not something you need to worry about. You don't. And we've talked about it before. Like, even when there's slates with two quarterbacks, right? We had a lot of it going down last year. We didn't know if Taysom Hill would get the start or whatever, so we were playing him anyway. You just don't do it. I know something crazy like Monday night can happen, but that shit's much rarer than it is. And of course, it's the Cardinals. It's a cursed franchise, so
it is.
That's why it all happened. If it would have been any other team, it would have been a 40-point win, and Cliff Kingsbury would be coach of the year.
All right, well, let's get into this game. We're not going to talk about our Cardinals anymore. I want to forget they exist. San Francisco traveling into Seattle. Weather seems fine. 49ers are 176 on the money line favors. And they're only 3-point favorites. I know they're on the road, but you're talking about probably like a top 3 or 4 type team, and especially a team that's really still kind of a favorite to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Obviously, their quarterback situation is not ideal, but Brock Purdy's played well enough to not make a ton of mistakes. And last week, they absolutely crushed Tom Brady and the Bucs. So I'm a little confused as to why this spread is so close. I get the 43.5 total because of the great defense from San Francisco, but I'm not really sure about this. What does Vegas know that we all don't really know? Because if I had to just guess, I would have said this is a much higher spread than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing to keep in mind here, despite what happened on Sunday, the Niners just decimated Tampa Bay. I think we got to keep in mind Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant for a reason, man. I don't mean to be a jerk. I'm happy for the guy. I'm glad that he's getting his run, but he was a third-string quarterback on this team for a reason, and I'm glad that he had some success. But at some point, like, there's going to be enough game film out there. There's going to be enough for teams to adjust on, and Seattle's defense isn't great, but they have some players out there in the secondary.
Yeah,
I think this game it's still a division rivalry or division matchup. it's still very much a competitive game. Brock Purdy, who knows what we get out of him tonight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
again, I think it goes back to your intro about CMC. I think it's going to be a heavy CMC game, and depends on how he plays where this team ends up. But I think Seattle does have a chance to win this game, man.
Yeah, could be, man. I mean, if the Seattle's offense comes out and plays like they have earlier in the season, I mean, they're coming off of a loss to Carolina, in which they got, it was a close game at the end, but man, I can't believe they would lose to a team like that. And they absolutely gave up a ton of yards to Chuba Hubbard. So they were not looking good. If they can turn around and look like the team that we saw earlier in the season, I think they have a shot. But going up against the San Francisco defense is not going to be easy. Now, Seattle's defense, not great against the run, obviously. They're 4.6 yards per carry to running backs. They gave up 5.3 yards per carry to Chuba last week. If they do that this week, they're screwed. Like, this is a very good run team. Obviously, we know that, especially with a rookie quarterback playing. Man, you're going to want to really set that run up. They're going to run the ball a lot in this game. So anybody that has the potential of running the ball in this game, I'm going to be very interested in. Anything else to talk about here, man? This is a pretty interesting matchup. Just, it's going to be hard to predict where this game goes. This could be a San Francisco blowout. It could be a Seattle close game. What are your thoughts? If we could guess now, what are your thoughts on kind of a final score here? Instead of doing it after the show or at the end of the show, let's predict now.
Yeah, I think realistically we're looking at something like 28-24 San Francisco, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Seattle's able to stay in this game. It's going to come if it goes to the over. I think that benefits Seattle more than anything else.
All right, let's get to our injuries.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
All right, so obviously Eli Mitchell's out. Debo Samuel is out. It wasn't as serious. I think it was a high ankle sprain. It wasn't as serious as people maybe originally thought. He probably will come back before the season ends or in the playoffs. Not sure, but he's out for this game. That's all that really matters right now. Not a whole lot of other things to talk about now. Brock Purdy is questionable, but I believe you sent me a tweet earlier today that he will be starting. Obviously, keep an eye on that, but I'm not too worried about him not playing in this game, obviously, or not being active. He will be. Anything else jump out to you on the 49ers side?
Nothing crazy. I mean, just keep in mind they are missing some key pieces on their in their secondary, so I think it opens up a little bit more of the pass game on Seattle.
And I'm not really seeing a whole lot of issues here on the Seahawks side of things. We have a couple guys questionable, but nothing really much to talk about fantasy-wise. So I think what we're going to do is let's just get into this breakdown. Let's do it. Break it down. All right, so Geno Smith is 10.6K, Brock Purdy 9,600. 9,600 for Brock Purdy is interesting. It makes me interested in him a little bit, but I don't quite know where to go with him. If you look at, last week, 21 fantasy points, that's pretty damn good. Even the week before where he threw an interception, he still had 2 touchdowns in each one of these games, 2 passing touchdowns, near that 200-yard mark. If he puts up, 16, 17 fantasy points in a game like this, I think you're going to need him, right? I mean, we can't avoid Brock Purdy in this matchup because of his pricing, right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I like Brock Purdy. I think I'll be probably even with the field. I do think that there's going to be some salary restrictions that require you to make a decision on whether or not you're going to be playing both of these quarterbacks. And I think I'm going to be leaning towards playing Geno Smith. So, there are going to be lineups where I'm going to have to not play Brock Purdy, but I like him. I think he's an interesting captain option as well. At 9,600, he kind of spread the ball out last week. Outside of CMC just doing CMC things.
Yeah.
If CMC doesn't have quite the game that he has, it's possible that Brock Purdy would have been essential at captain for a Tampa Bay showdown. But look, man, again, the one thing to keep in mind here is this Pete Carroll is a defensive backs coach. That's where he made his name. It's where he made his mark and how he rose to being a great, head coach. And he's got some pretty much two damn near rookie of the year corners that he's out there with. So again, this is going to be a much more different matchup than playing against Miami. Miami's defense and playing against Tampa Bay's decimated defense. So I do think there's a route in here where Brock Purdy doesn't have the kind of success that he saw over the last 2 weeks. So I think even with the field's probably the best way to go. But if you want to be under or think about, being 20, 25%, I don't think that's terrible either.
Yeah, and it just could be a situation where, depending on the game script, I mean, he could just not be needed, especially if they get the run game going and they dominate on the ground, which they should do. That he might just not be needed. He might throw for 200 yards and a touchdown, and maybe there's other guys that are just scoring so much more that he's not needed. I mean, look, he had this year he had one start, a full game, and then he played a portion of another game. 67% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 94 rating. Not bad for him. Geno Smith, 10.6K. If you look at, I mean, his floor is pretty high. Now, like I said, they're going against a pretty good defense, and if you look at week 2 there, that was one of his lower outputs of the season going up against San Francisco. But Geno, you're seeing in the last 4 weeks, all over 20 fantasy points. I got to think, man, is it too risky to go under the field on this guy, on Geno? I mean, at the end of the day, Geno is still Geno Smith. This isn't Patrick Mahomes, and he's going up against a tough defense. Could you get some leverage and just say, nah, I'm good, and be under the field on Geno?
Yeah, man, I definitely think that's an option. And to be honest with you, most of my builds, even though I think Seattle has a chance to hang around in this game, most of my builds are going to be still pretty heavy on the San Francisco side of the ball. So again, there are going to be salary restrictions here, and you're going to have to make decisions. So say you want Brock Purdy and a bunch of the San Francisco offense, I think you're fine just grabbing Tyler Lockett and a fucking kicker or whatever. So in a world like that, Tyler Lockett had 18 points last time these guys played. And so that means he got all of Geno Smith's completions. I mean, we saw 7 points in week 2. So I do think that there's a route that you can go. You just grab the stud player that you think is going to get all the points, and you might be able to fade Geno Smith and get a lot of leverage.
Well, look, this 49ers defense, 17 points or less allowed in the last 6 straight games. So, I mean, the odds are, they're probably not scoring more than 3 touchdowns in this game, or 2 and a field goal or whatever. 85 rating allowed to wide receivers, the 49ers pass defense. That's one of the lowest in the league. It's going to be a tough matchup for Geno. If any game that Geno, could just have a bad game, this is probably the game. Running backs, let's start with San Francisco. So CMC is 11.4K, highest price on the slate, obviously. I'm going to want him in every single lineup. And if, the biggest question here is he's going to be 25% or 30% owned in the captain. He's expensive. I might just fade him at the captain spot. I might have a few with him, like a couple of chalky builds just in case. But I might just try to fade him in the captain and worry about locking him into the flex. He's 11.4K. What are your thoughts there? And then we'll get to some of these backups.
Yeah, man, I think you got to lock him into the flex. I may have a couple lineups with him at captain, but that's, again, kind of like we say on every show. That's also because I have no problem playing some of these $200 and $1,400 guys in the same lineup.
Yeah.
So I'm getting different in a more unique way than, kind of just running some of these chalk McCaffrey lineups. But outside of that, I probably won't have him. I think he is going to be essential. Seattle's defense sucks, and no Deebo Samuel. I really don't know that they're going to be spreading that volume necessarily as far as rushing goes too much, or at least not in a way that's going to be meaningful to get the backups. So, any slight boost to CMC's workload is just, it's just fucking gravy, baby, man. Throw him in, play him as much as you can.
And in the fourth quarter last week, it was a blowout, so he didn't really get those targets that he usually gets. I mean, most likely you're gonna get 6-7 targets to him, especially with a rookie quarterback. You're gonna want to give him a nice check down, so he doesn't have to force the ball down the field if he doesn't want to. The biggest question here is, though, you see these 32, the 28, the 40. Those outputs, if he hits that sort of ceiling output, you're going to have him at captain. So be warned. You might end up tying with 150 other people or more. But if you fade him, you might not even min cash because if he puts up 40 fantasy points, you got to have him a captain. There's no other. There's no world in which he puts up 40 fantasy points and he's not the optimal captain. And you might not even cash if you don't have him.
And just a real quick point on that. I know we talk a lot about getting different and not tying a lot, but let's not pretend like a $15 entry split into the
Yes.
one of the big contests, right? If you've only got 2 or 3 of those lineups going and you tie with 150 people at first place, you're still profiting
still profiting
$2,500. So take what we're saying with a grain of salt. Make sure you're playing in a style that benefits your bankroll and just manage your risk effectively. That's all we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Like the way I'm playing it tonight is however many lineups I end up doing, probably 150, or I usually end up like 210 or something weird like that. I'm just banking on the fact that maybe CMC has, a 20 fantasy point game, 17 fantasy point game, have him in the flex, and I get, leverage on the 30% ownership in the captain, and maybe a guy like IU comes out and absolutely dominates. That's why I'm doing it. The chances are that CMC will be the highest scoring player in this game. It's obvious. But I'm trying to get some leverage and trying to maybe rise up that leaderboard a little bit quicker by having a different captain. So Jordan Mason is 4,800. He is now the backup, and his stats from last week are a little deceiving. I know he only ended up with 5 fantasy points, but those 11 carries, those all came in garbage time. So I don't really know what his usage or how many times he's going to be on the field, what his percentage is going to be as far as snap rate. I just don't know because we haven't really seen him be that guy without Debo even too. So 11 carries last week, 56 yards. I think at 4,800 he's interesting, but I don't love him at that price tag. If he was in that 2-3K range, I think it would be a little bit of a different. A guy like Tevin Coleman at 1,400, man. We know Tevin Coleman, and we know that Shanahan has like a weak spot for him for whatever reason. Maybe Coleman's got some dirt on Shanahan. I don't know what it is, but when this guy is active, you never want to underestimate his fondness for veteran Tevin Coleman. That's a direct quote. So I don't know how much he's going to be on the field, but he is totally the kind of guy that can vulture 2 touchdowns at 1,400 and just destroy the slate. He's not going to be high owned. Nobody's going to have him because he's 3rd string, kind of 4th string-ish. But I think it's worth the risk in a handful of lineups. It's definitely a situation where you can absolutely get a 0 out of him. But at 1,400, man, I'm actually really interested in him. Thoughts on Tevin Coleman?
Yeah, man. Look, I think it's just opportunity cost at this point. I'd rather play Tevin Coleman and hope that he gets a little bit of run, even if it's a reception for 18 yards, then play Jordan Mason, lose out on another, $3,600 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And hope that he gets there. I mean, at 4,800, he has to get there. Otherwise,
he's
got to
score a touchdown. He's got to score a touchdown.
Right. Now, I mean, again, this isn't a terrible matchup for him. I mean, he could get extended run if the Niners go up quick, like we saw last week against Tampa.
Yeah.
But I really think that's what we're seeing, right? We saw a boost in Mason's usage because of that. I think, if anything, that Shanahan does want to get Tevin Coleman involved. I think he's like a shitty version of Christian McCaffrey. So being able to utilize him on those snaps when CMC is out kind of keeps the same type of play style, same offense going. And not to mention, you still have a rookie quarterback. You have Mr. Irrelevant back there. What were you saying earlier for CMC? It's really easy for a quarterback when you got these little dump off passes in the flat.
Yeah.
Tevin Coleman's a veteran. He's somebody who understands how to get out of the backfield, leak out of the backfield, and be a safety valve for the quarterback. Jordan Mason, he struggled to get playing time. Remember, they're trading people away so that they could stack up at the running back position. Those are things that are going to impact his playing time. So I like Tevin Coleman. There's probably way too much to talk about these guys for being as cheap as they are. I like Tevin Coleman. You guys know I'll play this dude at 1,400.
And Tevin Coleman, yeah, pretty much. The guy is a goal line fucking beast, man. I would not be surprised if it's 2nd and 1 from the goal line and you see him in the game. And Kyle J is Kyle J. He's going to get 1 or 2 opportunities a game to score a touchdown. You have to have that touchdown out of him. The fact that he's 3K, I'm not super interested, but I might have a lineup or 2 with him. Let's go to the other side. So this is not a good matchup for the Seahawks running backs. Kenneth Walker, 7,600. Travis Homer, 7K. DJ Dallas, I guess he is questionable. Yeah, I missed that in the opening, but DJ Dallas is questionable, but he's 5,600. And then even Tony Jones, I don't think he's going to see the field. But any interest in Kenneth Walker, I mean, to me, the only opportunity that this guy is going to have to pay off that salary at 7,600 is a couple goal line carries for a touchdown or maybe 5-6 receptions out of the backfield. You're going to need the touchdown out of him, I think, because it's just you cannot run against this team, man. They are incredible run defense. And I kind of just like, maybe I'm thinking about not having much of him. He's going to be 30+% owned. I don't know. Am I thinking about too much into this matchup? People seem to be wanting to play him in this matchup.
Look, I think he's fine at 7,600. I think he can get some exposure. I think the easiest way to play him is just play him at captain. I think at 7,600, you could use him a little bit. Say you're not playing Geno Smith and you want to grab Lockett and Kenneth Walker. I think that's fine, right? You probably want a little bit of exposure. I don't know if you need to cancel him out, but it's just the injury history, right? He was initially listed this week as not injured, then later in the day was officially listed as questionable, and now it's back to, I guess he's fine.
Yeah.
And he's drawing ownership from the site. So, like, if I think the thing to key in here is don't have too strong of a take until we get down to inactives, which join the Discord. We'll post all that information there. About an hour before lock. But if they come in carrying 4 running backs, that means they're not sold on the health of Kenneth Walker and DJ Dallas. Mm-hmm. And Travis Homer has injury history too.
Yeah.
So like this is a very, very, very question mark backfield, and I think that they're priced appropriately. I think the easiest way right now for me is just if everybody's healthy, I probably won't have any of these guys except for Walker, captain, and a few lineups.
Yeah, because I'd rather get Geno and DK. I'd rather get Geno and Lockett. In certain lineups where I fade Geno, maybe a Kenneth Walker here and there might be a good option. But I like him as a captain option more. Getting get 10% of him at captain. And that's actually, if he does go nuclear, well, now you're set. You've got a $7,600 guy at captain with super low ownership. That might be all you need. All right, let's go to
one. I have one more thing on this before we go back. If for whatever reason, if Kenneth Walker is rolled out, last week, Pete Carroll said that Tony Jones was going to start the game. He did start, but Travis Homer finished with 91% of the volume snaps or carries. So
yeah,
the back Travis Homer is the guy. Kenneth Walker is out or whatever.
All right, let's go to wide receivers. So Tyler Lockett is 10.2K, DK Metcalf is 10K, and Marquise Goodwin 6,400. Those are the 3 dudes that we really want to talk about. More specifically, you got Lockett and Metcalf. Every single Seahawk Showdown show, we're always talking about Lockett or Metcalf because most of the time you probably can't afford 2 of them. In this situation, I don't mind getting him, both of these guys and Geno together and trying to, that's going to be an interesting roster construction, interesting build that might be different. You could still be chalky, you could still play all the chalky players, but just having all 3 of these guys together could be interesting. Tyler Lockett has been crushing, man. Touchdown in 6 straight games. DK Metcalf touchdown in 4 of the last 6 games. So I think both of these guys are great captain options. I like DK Metcalf at captain because of his ownership. Either one of these guys are great captain. I'm going to have at least one in every single lineup out of Lockett or Metcalf. Do you agree with that, or am I putting all my eggs into one basket here? Is it too risky to do that?
I don't know that it's too risky. I think if anything, it might be a little aggressive, but I don't think it's too risky. I mean, Geno, Tyler, or DK are probably going to be the highest scoring players from Seattle.
Yeah.
And most likely Tyler Lockett, the way that he's been playing, he has 2. I think one of the issues that people have thought about him, and we still see him as kind of a boom bust type wide receiver, but this year he only has 2 games where he hasn't put up double digit fantasy points. So I mean, that kind of says a lot for itself. I mean, 13 points may not get it done at 10K or 11, but for the most part, he's doing pretty good work out here. So I mean, look, and it was San Francisco. It was that 22.7 points against San Fran,
Yep.
right? And we saw how much Geno put out in that game. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck he was doing. He must have had all the volume.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, I don't think it's any great analysis, but play Tyler Lockett as much as you can. Be over the field on him. If you're going to be over the field on a specific guy, I think it's Tyler Lockett and then probably DK Metcalf. Same thing with DK Metcalf, man. He's just a grown ass man out there playing a wide receiver.
Yep.
It seems like the offense is getting back in sync. And look, just real quick before we just completely blow off this narrative. I mean, the Seahawks are still alive in the division, right? They're still alive in the West. They still have, or not, maybe not necessarily the West. I think
San 2 games back.
Clinched.
2 games back, dude.
2 games. Oh yeah, you're right. But either way, they're still in the wild card hunt too. So like this game matters. It's a home game for Seattle. Like I really think that they're going to get these guys involved. DK Metcalf is a great play as well.
Yeah.
And then some of these other guys, Marquise Goodwin, I think I'm probably not going to be very high on him. I think that he's an interesting play. He's got some high boom potential. I think you might want to consider him a captain, if anything. But outside of that, I probably won't have flex exposure.
Revenge narrative, former 49er.
Revenge narrative.
Look, I like Goodwin as a pivot, and I like him at captain because of his price tag, and he has that high upside. 20 fantasy points for a guy at 6,400. Man, at him at captain, you're going to be feeling pretty good about that. Let's go to the other side here. Well, Treadwell, Derek Young, $200 each. They're really not getting the snaps that would make it really worth it, in my opinion. Any interest in these guys? I mean, let me look here. Laquan Treadwell, 5% of the snaps last week. Derek Young, 3%. They're just not getting on the field. And Laquan Treadwell didn't even run a route last week. So I don't think I'm interested in these guys at 200. There's other cheap guys that I'd rather risk it on, right?
Yep, I agree with you.
All right, San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk, now the #1 wide receiver. Debo's out. All the volume is going to go to him. But how much volume is that? Brock Purdy probably throw the ball 20-plus times, depending on the game script, if they get that run game going. But how much volume can Brandon Ayuk get? He's still got a rookie quarterback passing to you. So you got to think about that. He's 8,800. I know he's the #1 dude, but how powerful is this pass offense going to be? I don't know. And it's not a great matchup for them as far as wide receivers go. Juwan Jennings, 3,600. Ray McLeod at 1,200. Probably the best value on the slate as far as snap rate. The guy's on the field and he's running routes. And at that price, you got to consider him. So thoughts on these guys, man? What do we do here? I think Brandon Ayuk at captain is an incredible option, but it's boom or bust in my opinion in this particular game.
Yeah, man, I love Brandon Ayuk. I agree with you that it's boom or bust. I mean, he's gonna have Tariq Woolen on him. Again, probably gonna win Defensive Rookie of the Year for the NFC. So I expect it to be a difficult matchup, but there's no reason why he can't be the guy, especially with Debo out. We see what kind of numbers that he's had when they've been experiencing injuries in the past. Those are all his green weeks there, right? 28, 20, and 16. So, look, man, Brandon Ayuk, he's in a great spot. I think I prefer him at the captain spot. 8,800 is a little bit steep for flex when we can kind of pay down and try and get to some of the wide receivers on Seattle's side. But look, I think the interesting plays here are really going to come from Juwan Jennings and Ray McLeod. Ray McLeod is kind of the most obvious guy just because he's 1,200. I think he's going to be one of the chalkier value plays on the slate tonight. But I don't necessarily know if his workload is justified, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So like at 1,200, go ahead and play him. Like it's not going to kill you. But instead of maybe playing one of the kickers, I do think there's a world in which you can kind of go to lower own Juwan Jennings. He really is going to be the wide receiver too. And I do expect him to get some decent work, right? Like why not? I mean, if we think about it, this is Jennings, McLeod, and Gray are probably the guys that Brock Purdy's been practicing with all season long.
Yeah.
Right. So like if he's running second or third team snaps or they're running drills, those guys might be over there playing catch with him. So I like him. I think that he's a great option tonight at 3,600, and he's going to give you some flexibility, especially if you want to maybe come off of Ayuk and just do CMC, Jawan Jennings, and then maybe go with a full Seahawks stack. That might be crazy, but worth it.
Yeah, and Brandon Ayuk, do not be surprised if he gets some rushing opportunities, some end arounds, maybe busts out an 18-yard carry here or there, or you see some weird trick play stuff with him. They don't have Debo. Ayuk is that type of guy. I think we saw it more last year where he got kind of more involved with the run game, but not having Debo here, that opens up a little bit more room for Ayuk to move around in motion a little bit more and maybe expect a couple handoffs, maybe a direct snap in the red zone. Something weird like that is possible. Let's go to tight ends now. So George Kittle, 8K. He's not going to be high owned. He's going to be 25% owned. He's priced up a little bit. I think people are mainly just worried about his upside because obviously Brock Purdy's throwing him the ball. But hey, what's better than for a rookie quarterback? What's having a stud tight end that you could pop little pop passes here and there to? That is huge for a guy like Brock Purdy. Maybe they're going to involve Kittle a little bit more in the game plan because as you can see, the guy's getting, he's just not getting the opportunities. He's not getting targets. He's got under 30 receiving yards in 4 of the last 5 games. That's going to scare people away. I still think you can throw him at captain. I think you can throw him in the flex. I think that people are going to be scared of him based on his output. You're talking about a top 5 tight end, probably a top 3 if you really think about it. They need to get him involved more. And if they're gonna blow this team out, you got to think that Kittle probably will get involved. I don't know, man. Am I hyping myself up here? I just like Kittle a lot, but he's 8K. That's kind of expensive. He's it's a little bit much.
Yeah, no, man, I like Kittle, especially with Debo out. You want to soften kind of the attention that you're going to get from the solid corners for Brandon Ayuk. Then target George Kittle over the middle, right in front of the safeties. Make the safeties have to make a decision and see if you can get Ayuk one-on-one on the outside. So look, I really think that getting Kittle involved is going to be essential to the game plan. And to your point, just soften the load that Brock Purdy really has to carry. If they utilize him, I think he's just mispriced at 8K. I understand that he struggled this year, but it's been more boom or bust. And I think that's more of a testament to the weapons that they have on offense, right? They have so many skill players that it's hard for one guy to dominate as much unless he's, Christian McCaffrey, because he can touch the ball every other play, and then he gets targeted too. So, but look, George Kittle's a great play at 8K. I think you want to focus with him at captain as well. I don't think you need to get too crazy at the flex. Target your core in the flex of Christian McCaffrey and then Geno Smith or one of the wide receivers from Seattle, and then maybe kind of filter in some of these other guys. But I love George Kittle at captain. And just another guy that I am interested in here is Tyler Kroft. Tyler Kroft at $200 is kind of one of those punts that nobody's going to be looking at because why the fuck would you, right? But he's on the field, like he's getting 19 to 20% of the snaps, and that's what we're looking for at a $200 guy. If you're going to be on the field for almost an entire quarter, there's an opportunity for you to get targeted with a catch and end up with a catch or a couple yards. So I don't hate getting some exposure to him. I think probably around 5-6% is fine.
Yeah, a guy like Tyler Kroft, he had 25% of the snaps last week. I don't know how much he would, the blowout benefited that, but the week before he had something similar. He had actually more snaps the week before. So, if they're going to be running the ball a lot in this game, a lot of two tight end sets, you got to expect Tyler Kroft to maybe get a little bit more run in a game like this where they're going to try to run the ball quite a bit. All you need is that one little, 1 yard touchdown reception from him for $200. That would be huge. All right, let's go to the other side for Seattle. Noah Fant's 4,400. Will Dissly's 2,400. Colby Parkinson's 1K. I think a lot of these, all three of these tight ends get involved. Noah Fant and Will Dissly get involved more. So what are your thoughts on these tight ends, man? I mean, Will Dissly at about, at $2,000 cheaper than Noah Fant. Who is your favorite guy here?
Um, I actually I think it's Will Dissly, man. Noah Fant is sitting at what, like 60, 61% of the snaps, and then Disley is at 61, 62%. I know Noah Fant is brought in to be that kind of number one tight end, but they like what Will Dissly brings to this team. So it's $2,000 discount. You're probably gonna have similar projections for him, regardless of what site you're looking at. I just think that you're better off playing this guy, and we all know Will Dissly is going to end up with a touchdown, especially on an island game, right? That's where he gets his touchdowns. I don't think he's had a touchdown in anything but an island game. No, that Detroit one wasn't an island, but anyways, look, I like Will Dissly. I think he's a fine play. Again, they're going to have to come up with ways to attack the secondary, and I think with the Niners being so focused in on the wide receivers, Lockett and DK Metcalf, it could open up some opportunities for Dissly and Fant. And they're probably going to run a lot of two tight end sets to help alleviate some of the stress on the offensive line when they go to run the ball. So again, they're both going to be on the field. They're both going to see a decent amount of run. I think you can play both. Noah Fant just happens to be, too expensive for me. Colby Parkinson, I'm not interested though. Although he'll probably end up scoring a touchdown because that's what happens on islands.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in a game like this, I'd probably, instead of Noah Fant, I'd probably go with a kicker, even in tournaments. I think all these guys are risky. Every one of them can get you a goose egg, but you're probably looking at like, what, a 10, 12 point upside for these guys. I know Noah Fant has a higher ceiling than Dissly. You got a couple 14 points in there. If he scores 14 points at that price tag, he's probably going to make the optimal. But I'm not confident that he can against this defense. So I'm probably going to be, I mean, these guys, nobody's going to play these guys. They're going to be 15% or lower owned, in my opinion. So if you want to go a little heavier on them, maybe you can get some leverage. But there's other guys I'd rather go with that are cheaper, that have more upside, in my opinion. All right, so speaking of kickers, you've got Robbie Gould, 4K, Jason Myers, 3,800. They're kickers. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a division game. It's the second time these two teams have met this season, and it matters for the playoffs. So I think both kickers are in play. You probably don't need both in the same lineup, but I think both teams are going to be more likely to take points when they're able to. And at a -3 spread, that implies the game will probably be won by a field goal. So you got to guess which one.
Yeah, both of these
I think
kickers
either
are
is in
solid.
play. Whatever your salary kind of allows you for is probably where you want to go.
Yeah, I think both these kickers are solid. Both of these kickers can get you a 15-point game. And if you get 15 points out of your kicker, you're going to need them, most likely. Defense, 49ers defense, 5K. They're going to be popular, obviously. But, Seahawks defense, 3,200. Seahawks defense going up against a rookie quarterback. I don't care who it is. He's going to make some mistakes. He's already thrown a couple picks this year. You just need one big play out of the defense. Are you interested in either of these defenses? The 49ers defense, to me, at that price tag, not only are they going to be over-owned, but the chances of them paying off that price tag are probably not so high, even though it's a good matchup for them. But they're going up against a pretty high-powered offense. So anyways, thoughts on 49ers defense? Are you going to play them at all? Any interest in Seahawks?
So maybe I can find a way to get this stat, but I just don't know how good of a play 49ers defense would be on the road. It really just doesn't seem like the best idea. In Seattle, we know how playing in Seattle can be.
Yeah.
They are a bit expensive at 5K. Like I just, again, I think they need a touchdown. I do like your take about the Seahawks defense, though. I mean, you're absolutely right. This is still Mr. Irrelevant. This is still third string quarterback playing NFL. You have some stud corners, you have some defenders that you're building out of this team. So I do think that there is a potential for turnovers, and if they can really key in on Christian McCaffrey and slow him down, it's really going to make life hard on Brock Purdy, in my opinion. So look, we saw it on Monday night. It sucked, but backup quarterbacks sometimes put a defense right into the optimal. It was a lucky or bullshit fumble by DeAndre Hopkins turned into a touchdown. That was enough. All of a sudden, that Pat's D was required. So don't sleep on him. 3,200 is cheap enough.
All right, let's get to our crown their ass segment.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going Ayuk. I like it. I'm going Metcalf simply because of the ownership difference. I think Lockett's going to be higher owned. So I do think that Metcalf has that ability in the red zone to be the guy that, you know, could get you 2 touchdowns. Lockett is similar. Obviously, he can absolutely get you multiple touchdowns, but he's more of traditionally he's more of a boom bust, like big play type guy. If you don't get those big plays out of Lockett, you might be in trouble. Metcalf, you just need 2 receptions out of him for a touchdown, and you know that could be enough to pay it off. So, anyways, I like both these guys. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey at captain is going to be your best choice. You have to decide whether or not it's worth it for you because you're going to have to get a lot more different in the flex. So if you don't want to do that, and he's expensive, so you're going to have to punt multiple times potentially, depending on your build. Who are some other guys you're interested here? Is there anybody else that jumps out to you?
Yeah, man. So Geno Smith is obviously a captain option. He could easily crush. He could easily end up with 70 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown today. So he's somebody I'm interested in. We talked about George Kittle a little bit. I think that he's primarily a captain play, and then I don't know, Kenneth Walker too, right? I don't want to completely dismiss the run game from Seattle. He was having a good year, so that's another guy I might be interested in a little bit.
All right, let's get to our fade.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Ellie, you're fading Seahawks D. I think, a handful of people will be with you. What's your definition of fade? I mean, they're probably going to be 15% owned. Maybe you come in at 10% or something like that. You'll have at least a couple lineups with them, though, right?
Maybe. I might have 1 or 2. For the most part, I probably won't play the defenses.
Yeah, agreed. For me, CMC captain, I'm probably not going to have a lot of them. What I'll probably do is put in like a $50 or $100 single entry into one of these tonight and throw CMC at captain. And if he goes off, I can at least, cover my entries in my tournament lineups. That's probably what I'll end up doing. Let's go to our lineup build here. Let me pull that up. All right. So let's hit the button. First off, speaking of hitting the button, go ahead and hit that like button. We really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe if you guys are liking what we're doing. Subscribe. We really we're looking to get to our 1,000 subscriber goal. We just gave away 2 $50 DraftKings gift cards. When we hit 1,000, we'll give another 2 in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, you can either click the link in the bio or the description, or scan this QR code here with your phone if you're watching on your computer or your TV or whatever. We appreciate that. We love the community. It's been awesome seeing that Discord grow. Let's go ahead and click it, see what happens. CMC at captain, Ray, Jason Myers, kicker, Kenneth Walker, Brock Purdy, and Geno Smith. Let's build our own captain, CMC captain sort of cash lineup, and then we'll build a CMC lineup that's more of a dart throw that we can possibly at least not tie with another 1,000 people with. So let's build our cash lineup. Do you think Brock Purdy is necessary in the cash lineup?
No, I don't.
All right, so
I'd rather go Geno.
Yeah, so Geno. Now, the hardest decision for me is going to be Lockett or Metcalf. I think the safer guy is Metcalf. You save $200, and I think Metcalf can still get you there on 7 or 8 receptions or something. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you prefer one or the other in cash?
Who are you seeing as higher owned, Lockett or Metcalf?
Lockett.
Probably Lockett, right?
Yeah.
Then I would just go Lockett and see if you can build with that first.
All right, Lockett. Where do we go here, man? Where else do we go for cash? Do you want to put your value in now? You want to put Ray in since he's probably going to be the highest owned value guy? Let's put Ray in. Where else do we go here? Kittle, probably not. I'm not playing Kittle in any sort of cash or single entry. But you got to look at Ayuk here, right?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, you can. You just got to punt again, 2,100. So where does that get us? That gets us Tony Jones. That gets us Tevin Coleman. There's really nobody. I mean, there's tournament options here, but I mean, maybe this makes it worth it being able to have Ayuk in your cash lineup. But I don't know, man. Maybe we want to go with kicker here instead.
So what about this? Let's take Ray out. Let's put in Tyler Croft. I know this is crazy, but I'd rather kind of just see if we get that flexibility. Instead of Ayuk, put in Kittle.
This is now a tournament build with CMC.
Yeah, for sure. 3,900, and then now you get the kicker.
Now you get Jason Myers. Yeah. All right, that's not bad.
But that's a fine tournament lineup, but I wouldn't run that for cash. No.
Let's finish.
Yeah, go from Lockett to Metcalf, I guess, bro.
Lockett to Metcalf, and let's do Ray. Let's do a kicker. So probably Gould. Or do you want Jason Myers?
Let's start with Gould.
Okay, 7,100. So what does that get us? Travis Homer, nah. Marquise Goodwin, nah. I think you probably want to go with 49ers defense in a cash lineup. I don't know. Am I crazy with that?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you probably get 7, 8, 9 fantasy points out of them, probably. So that could be enough. You got the kicker and the defense. That might, you got CMC at captain with the defense and the flex. Now you could switch out Gould for somebody else. Actually, let's look at that 6,100. These mid, you could go Jordan Mason. There's options here, but I think the safest would be a kicker most likely. All right, let's move on. Let's build another like one or two lineups here. Let's do DK Metcalf at captain. Now, obviously, you can do Tyler Lockett here. It's probably similar lineups. They're very close to in salary. Let's do a Seahawks stack here. Gino. You want to just do Lockett as well?
Yeah, let's throw him in.
Let's get CMC in here, obviously. That leaves us with not a lot of options. Let's look at who's a guy that you're interested in here that's not Ray McLeod.
Juwan Jennings.
We can't get to Juwan Jennings.
Okay.
You Tevin Coleman? You wanna just say screw it?
Sure. The problem is I think we're still gonna be pretty close to that same range, right?
Yeah. This is not easy. This is why these guys are not going to be in lineups together. These
what about this? Instead of Tevin, throw in Tyler Croft.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure that gives us much more to work with, though.
Not really. 2,600. Will Disley. I mean, this is just a.
Oh, that's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. It's still kind of a crap lineup. But if your holy trinity of Seahawks stack goes off. And obviously, Christian McCaffrey is going to get you 20 fantasy points probably at minimum. You're just hoping these guys get a couple receptions for you because this is going to be a very unique build. All right, let's pull Lockett out of here. And could we? Where do you want to go here? Do you want to do a 2-4? Let's do a 2-4 with San Francisco, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's throw in Purdy.
All right. So that's gonna limit us to not be able to get any pass catchers really, except for Ray McLeod, most likely. So you get
what's Juwan Jennings priced at?
36, and we don't have enough for him. We're at 3,400. Yeah. So you got to go Ray McLeod, $2,200.
It's not gonna work.
Tevin Coleman again, and that's scary. I think. Go ahead.
Let's pull out Brock. Let's throw in Ayuk.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ayuk is the guy, either him or Kittle in a situation like this, but I like Ayuk more. 4,200. So you could put a kicker and Tyler Croft in here.
Yeah, kicker, Tyler Croft, or I think you might even be able to do Tevin Coleman and Juwan Jennings.
Let's try it.
Too much.
Let's try it. Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, it's too much.
Is it? 2,800. What does that get you, though? Disley, same old shit. That's a 3-3. Yeah. I don't know. That's not really. I'm not super interested in that. So let's go down from DK Metcalf. Let's go to Ayuk and see how much easier it is to build with Ayuk at captain. This could determine if I get a ton of him or not. So do we need Brock Purdy in the flex? Probably not, right? How do you want to handle this? You want to do a 4-2? You want to do 3-3? What do you think?
I want to try this. Let's go CMC. Let's go Tyler Lockett and Geno Smith and just see if it's even possible.
Okay. I think it will be. Geno, Lockett, 4,600. So kicker. Who else is in that range? Noah Fant. So you can throw Noah Fant in here and then punt at 200. You can't get Jordan Mason, not quite. Juwan Jennings though. Ayuk and Jennings with McCaffrey, 1,000. So you're punting you're saying screw it with a guy like Croft or something like that. Any of these $200 guys, it's kind of all the same. I mean, it's kind of all the same at this point. I mean, jeez.
Let's build without Christian McCaffrey. Instead of CMC, throw in Purdy.
All right, screw it. Purdy. This is going to be easy to build now, probably, or easier. You want to go Robbie Gould here?
Sure.
That's 2,400. Does that get us Ray?
Yeah.
Where's he at? Yeah, 1.2K. It does. All right. So yeah, you have to fade CMC or you have to fade, one of the big three from Seattle. and if you do that, hey, it's easy building. Is there?
Yeah,
anybody...
I don't know if I'm fading Christian McCaffrey.
I'm not. He's getting locked. Like this is how it's going to look for me in every single lineup. He's going to be locked into the flex, and variety from there. But that is going to be where I go. So let's do one more build here with another captain. Like what you want to do? You want to do Kenneth Walker or Marquise Goodwin? Maybe Kenneth Walker, right?
Let's run a Kenneth Walker one.
All right, so Kenneth Walker. Let's fade Geno in this one. Let's get one of his guys. So either Lockett or Metcalf. Let's go with Lockett since he's $200 more, and then you can just switch those guys out if you wanted. That leaves us with 17K for 3 spots. Do you want to punt right away, or do you want to lock in another stud here? Do you want to go like Ayuk, or what do you think?
Yeah, let's go Ayuk, and then honestly, I think we can still get. Oh no, we can't. Yeah. Okay. So we got Ayuk. I guess we'll go with. I mean, you can play both kickers now if you want.
Yeah. Let's just try it.
That actually might be a fine cash lineup. Well, no, Geno is scary.
Well, and Kenneth Walker too. I mean, that too. But this is a decent lineup. And also, look, we got to remember kickers. They're playing in Seattle. It's outdoors. There could be some elements that kind of interrupt things. Here, let me just hit optimize and see what it does. Yep, it puts the kickers in there. So, I mean, it's kind of tough. It is kind of tough. And I think what makes it really, really tough is Geno and his 2 pass catchers that you want are both over 2K or 10K. All 3 of those guys are over 10K. So that makes it really tough to get them all to get 2 of those guys together and CMC. Now, most of your salary is gone and you got to punt too many times. And there's really not a lot of value. Like I know that Ray McLeod at 1.2K is a pretty decent option. I'm just not confident that he can get you there. And a guy like Tevin Coleman at 1,400 is a pure dart throw. That guy could absolutely not even see the field, which is scary. So what are your thoughts after building, man? What build type did you like? Did you like paying down at captain and stacking all the studs in the flex, or should we just, since all the building is kind of similar, should we just go with the studs?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have to play Tyler Croft or if you're gonna have to play, Tevin Coleman or whatever, if you can still play Christian McCaffrey or whatever at captain, then I think that's kind of the way to go. I'm gonna end up playing those guys. They're gonna be super low owned, so I'm gonna start by trying to build the chalkier captain lineups, and then from there I'll kind of diverge and maybe get into some of the weird builds with the less chalky captains. But again, just because we're struggling building doesn't mean anything's unique, right? That means everybody else is. So
yeah,
the same difficulties that we're having are the same things that everybody else does. So what we have to do are going to be the same natural adjustments that everybody else does. So sometimes sticking with Christian McCaffrey at captain maybe, and punting with both Coleman and Croft is the way to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't mind it. I'm gonna run some of these crazy ass lineups and then get weird elsewhere.
Yeah. Join the Discord. Obviously, as inactives come out about 90 minutes before lock, We'll be talking about any weirdness that happens there. And also, over the next few hours, I'm going to be messing around with builds and thinking about stuff. So things can change. Maybe I play more CMC at captain between now and then because of what you said. If it's all the same, if we're punting multiple times because of the builds that we want to do, just play the best guy, Who's your low-owned guy that you think can score in this matchup?
I honestly think it's Will Disley. I don't think he's going to come in more than 10% owned.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Tevin Coleman simply because there is a world where he gets 2 carries and one of them is for a touchdown. It's very, very possible. All right, we'll see you guys for Sunday Night Football. Throw us a like on the way out. Let's get to 50 likes for this video. We appreciate you guys. See you Monday.